I should have been warned. I wouldn't have had dinner yesterday. I was planning to do a diet of sorts, and the sweets are making it complicated. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that I, unfortunately, do not have a prepared speech. I do not have a prepared speech because I cannot, ladies and gentlemen, conceive of how I could possibly, once again, express the extent of the awe and the admiration and the gratitude that I feel in having the privilege that you have granted of addressing myself to you. The participants to this summit, ladies and gentlemen, have come indeed, as His Excellency the Prime Minister has mentioned, from all over the world. Traveled far and wide to stay here for 2 days and a half. With the purpose of ensuring that we go beyond words so as to achieve palpable realities, true concretization of our ideals, and give long overdue birth to the future that we have, in many ways, dreamt of for too long without benefiting from it. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, I am once again expressing my admiration. This has been a historic moment. But with every historic moment comes the responsibility of being worthy of that moment. And I know, I am convinced profoundly that when we act, each one of us, in a cohesive, coordinated, and collective manner, to achieve our shared aspirations, enact our common principles, preserving the universal whilst recognizing the essential nature, the fundamental nature of adapting to our national, local, and individual contexts. We are indeed worthy. We become worthy of the historic moment that we have just witnessed and participated to. But historic as it is, crucial as it is, we have a task ahead that is twice the size, of multiple times the urgency. The difficulties of which are of a far greater magnitude than what we have sought to overcome and overcame. There is still, ladies and gentlemen, much to do. The Universal Declaration of Balanced and Inclusive Education has indeed been proclaimed. The purpose, however, is and must remain to implement the principles and the vision and the commitments that are included, expressed within this declaration. The constitutive charter of the Organization of Educational Cooperation has been signed and will enter into force once 10 of the founding state signatories have ratified it. But we cannot afford, in our era, ladies and gentlemen, to wait. For the clock, as I mentioned on the first day of the summit, the clock is ticking. And we must act with the swiftness, with the sense of urgency that this historic moment requires. And I believe, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that it is of primordial importance for us to start work immediately, constitute the preparatory committee that the constitutive charter calls for, start devising programs and regulations, but most importantly, before and after that the Charter enters into force and the first General Assembly is called. We must not limit ourselves to the Organization of Educational Cooperation either. For the moments that we have shared, the moments that we have shared during these 2 days and a half, the best practices that were presented, the conclusions that we can draw from the successes and failures of other initiatives, these are already, in an informal way, the very essence of the Organization of Educational Cooperation. It is, in a certain sense, the very essence of the Universal Declaration of Balanced and Inclusive Education. For it is, principally, the consciousness that we must, and we will, act together. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, there are those that will be skeptical. Who will see us having signed this Universal Declaration and this constitutive charter with the conviction that this will remain nothing more than mere paper and ink. And in that sense, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we must all guard ourselves from excessive optimism. For we are not of the ones that settle for good enough. And striving for the best, striving for the ideal itself, we are all here present, perpetually disappointed with our activities and our results. For we strive to do better, and we strive to do more. And therefore we are not ones for excessive optimism. We are ones to realize that the future is forged. The future is forged by women and men of intransigent determination, unwavering conviction, to transform the unjust power dynamics that exist within education, and therefore the injustices that education reproduces. These issues were discussed during these 2 days and a half. But there are many more to discuss and many more actions to take. From the dynamics of a patriarchal society that marginalizes and excludes women, not only within society and not only within positions of leadership and not only in terms of gender violence, but more importantly, or worse, that completely erases any trace of the great contribution of women to our common history throughout millennia. The same is true for indigenous peoples and their cultures that are the results of which we are, in part, the result. The same is true, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of minorities. And the list, unfortunately, goes on. The purpose, however, is to identify those dynamics of exclusion and ensure that they are dismantled, that we may construct collectively the future to which we aspire without the risk of inadvertently reproducing the injustices of the present in a new form in this future. And of this, ladies and gentlemen, I am certain that we will be capable, because I am faced by an assembly of women and men from 3 continents, that are of intransigent determination, that are of unwavering conviction. And it is collectively, and with your support, following the great honor that I hope I will deserve and prove worthy of, that you have made, that I know and that I hope we will achieve the educational transformation we are aspiring to and that we have been discussing, that we will achieve an overhaul of the international dynamics in terms of educational cooperation, that we may achieve an order that is based upon solidarity rather than individual interests. I know that when we act together, we are acting with the understanding that it takes more than a mere signature. It takes more than a successful project. To achieve that which our generations and the next deserve. And this more, ladies and gentlemen, is encountered in the collective. It is encountered in the coordination of our platforms. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, not to take too much of your valuable time, let me recall, and I know I have done it often in past events, but these words are nonetheless relevant. Let me recall two quotes. That of Albert Camus, who upon receiving the Nobel Prize for Literature said on the 10th of December 1957, chaque génération, sans doute, se croit vouée à refaire le monde. Each generation, without a doubt, thinks itself as bound to remake the world. Ma génération pourtant sait qu'elle ne le refera pas. My generation, however, knows that it will not remake it. Mais sa tâche est peut-être plus grande encore. But its task is perhaps greater still. Elle consiste à faire en sorte que le monde ne se défasse pas. It consists in making sure that the world does not unmake itself. And more than 6 decades following Camus' words, I think that we have this task that is unique and peculiar in that we know that we can only ensure that the world does not unmake itself by unmaking the systems which have led the world to the brink of unmaking itself, so as to eventually, indeed, remake it. Finally, I would like to quote a poem that has guided me, Your Excellency, many times in the past. It goes something like this, ladies and gentlemen, and I apologize for the whimsical ending, but it is, after all, a moment that has its own romantic touch. The poem goes and says, come, come let us mock at the great, that toiled so hard and late to leave some monument behind, nor thought of the leveling wind. Come, come let us mock at the wise, with those calendars whereon they set old aching eyes. They never saw how seasons run, and now but gape at the sun. Come, let us mock at the good, that fancied goodness might be gay, and sick of solitude might proclaim a holiday. Wind shrieked, and where are they? Mock mockers after that. Mock mockers after that. That would not lift a hand maybe to help good, wise, or great, to bar that foul storm out. For we traffic in mockery. And ladies and gentlemen, we have all, you have all, proven undoubtedly that we do not and will not traffic in mockery, but act to ensure that we may bar collectively that foul storm out. I thank you all very much.